What's up, guys? It is 9:01 a.m. here in Los Angeles. It is Wednesday, the 19th of January already, 2021 AD. And we're going to have a fun, loosey-goosey Wednesday show, not Tuesday show. I'm going to cover Dan Crenshaw. Ever heard of that guy? He's the guy with the eye patch. I think he was supposed to have been a Navy SEAL or something, and then he turned into a coward rhino. Maybe he was always a coward. Did you know that you can be a Navy SEAL and a coward? It is quite possible. Just look at Dan Crenshaw. And the immigration invasion, maybe touch a little bit on that. As I mentioned during the Jesse Lee Peterson show, on whose network I stream, and on my audio feed especially. And you can call in to his number. It is also my number, 888-775-3773. One America News Network. All the pro-Trump people and stuff, and Trump himself and his family are under major attack. Major attack. And One America News Network is one network that was promoted by Trump, and now they are being shut down by the corporations after a media hit piece, interestingly enough. And I'll also talk about this black female state attorney general from New York she's going after Trump and the Trump organization. And I think she's running for governor, maybe? Not sure. And she ousted Cuomo too, by the way, because he was man enough to be hated, even though he's not a man. What a mess, huh? But anyway, guys, let's get right on with the show!
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Hey, guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, how are you guys doing? I am fine. By the way, Lord Bibby42 says, Hake needs a toothpick, Chico. And so I pulled out my handy-dandy phone and did a selfie style thing where it's pointing at you. And I smiled and I looked and I did see, sure enough, there was a piece of, I don't know, seed in my teeth. Thank you, man. Appreciate the heads up on that. Right on. Guess I should check the mirror a little more closely before I head into the radio show studio. So, I have some things to cover for you today. Let me just start off right off with this guy, Dan Crenshaw. He's a total rhino, and people were pleased with him back in 2018, I want to say, somewhat. Early 2019, when these people first swore into office during the midterms amid the Trump administration. He's a congressman, I want to say out of Texas. And he used to be a Navy SEAL, and he has an eye patch because he lost his eye in the war or something. To quote or paraphrase what that guy, that funny comedian who dated, he's not that funny, but he's, I don't know, he was a little kid when his firefighter dad died in 9/11. And I'm blanking on his name, but he dated, try brushing your teeth? Brushing after meal, James. How am I supposed to? Anyway, this guy, I'm blanking on his name, but he was from SNL, Saturday Night Live, and he dated, what's her name? The soul stealer, Ariana Grande. All these betas, all overdosing and trying to kill themselves over her, Ariana Grande. No, Mac Miller was not on SNL, but yeah, he was all broken up over her too. That's why I'm thinking about people overdosing. But anyway, Dan Crenshaw. Back to Dan Crenshaw. There's this phony respect to veterans, which I do not participate in that mess. I respect the veterans who actually love the country and for what they did, but not, oh, inherently you can't criticize veterans if you were not a veteran. Give me a break. And oh, you can't call him a coward. He served as a Navy SEAL. Yes, you can. Look at how he acts. He's a total coward. Here is an example of his cowardice. I say. Yeah, Pete something. Oh man, it's on the tip of my mind. SNL is garbage. SNL, Pete Davidson. Thank you. Yeah, what a mess. Now he's dating Kim Kardashian, according to Ragnar0321. Yeah, and he's like younger than her, I'm pretty sure. Because she's like my age, and he's like in his, I don't know, like late 20s, I think. Ridiculous. Here's Dan Crenshaw. He's been groiped before, meaning, you know, he won't entertain questions about Israel and stuff, support for Israel, which there's a lot of young people who don't have the same support for Israel that the older Christians were raised to have. They're like, or maybe they were raised, but they don't like our relationship, right, with Israel. And then there's some other stuff that he's just kind of a rhino on. He wasn't all that strong against Trump. Back in 2018, he's like, oh yeah, Trump, he's kind of rude, but he doesn't hate the transgenders. Pretty weak, huh? Pretty weak. So here he is, according to USA Today, at what is this? Montgomery County Tea Party PAC meeting on Monday. And a young woman, I think falsely called a 10-year-old girl, I guess she's actually 18, I don't know. But she's asking him a question at this Q&A Tea Party event. Tea Party, for those of you who don't know, they're conservatives. Get groiped, Dan Crenshaw. I saw this on TKR Official on Telegram. TKR Official on Telegram. Great source. I recommend it. t.me/TKR Official. Dan Crenshaw versus an allegedly 10-year-old girl. I think she's 18. But listen to this question. She questions him based on something that he said on a podcast that went viral some months back. Listen to this.
Whoa. Yeah! Who hasn't heard, Crenshaw said, quote, "The most important thing here is that we have important hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype, Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. I could name 1,000. Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan," end quote. I can't wrap my head around this.
You will, I'll help you. Put a period after the word Jesus and don't question my faith.
Wow.
There's,
You moron.
look.
Yeah, you don't talk to a kid like that. Yeah, boo.
Don't question my faith.
Oh, okay.
You guys can ask questions about all of these things and I will answer them. But don't question my faith.
I can question your faith if this is what you said.
That's, I mean, you can read the quote again. But nowhere in that quote am I saying Jesus is not real. That's a ridiculous statement. Of course he's the Son of God. Of course he's the Son of God, and of course he's real.
You can say two different things. You can say that on a podcast, and you can say this here.
On the podcast, nobody would have understood it that way. I think you're twisting it that way.
They might have.
Just not very Christian.
Let's go, Brandon.
Not Christian.
Brandon.
It's not. And I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
Thank you.
I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
What a mess. That was Dan Crenshaw, a Republican politician. I guess he thinks that he claims to be a Christian. Yeah, reportedly she's 18, not 10. But she looks 10. She sounds 10. So, if you didn't quite catch what she said, she was quoting him from this clip from Jocko Willink's podcast. Let me just play this from Progressive Mitch. He posted it on Twitter. I'd seen it before. Jocko Willink is another guy who used to be a Navy SEAL or something like that. He's like a military guy. I like his stuff. He has this one clip that says, good. To anything that's bad that's going on, you just say good, and you keep going. Nice, huh? Nice attitude to have. But he's had this Dan Crenshaw guy on a couple of times before. Dan Crenshaw has come out with a book or two and promoting himself and acting like he's all deep or something. This is the eye patch guy, Dan Crenshaw. Listen to this. It's about, I clipped it down so it's a little shorter, but here's the context so you can hear Dan Crenshaw's saying it himself about, well, he's not specifically talking about Jesus, but he mentions Jesus in passing. And it sounds like he's lumping him in with Superman and then lumping Rosa Parks as a real character in with Ronald Reagan, who was also a real character. Both of them dead, and I don't know. You think Jocko is a hack? Well, listen to this. This is, you don't hear Jocko in it. You hear Dan Crenshaw talking on this interview. Listen to this. 12. Is it there? Maybe I didn't put it there. Oops. My bad. Okay, so in the meantime, it's not there. My fault. Oh, maybe I put it in. Okay. Give me a minute here, guys. What a mess. Maybe I need a producer. So ex-Republican scumbag Ron Flipkowski is all happy about this. Ron Flipkowski, probably not a Christian. He's gone after Trump. He's gone after Republicans. He's praised Dan Crenshaw when Dan Crenshaw was calling the Freedom Caucus a bunch of grifters. That's something that Dan Crenshaw has said before, and I covered it on my show. Well, this guy is now going after Dan Crenshaw. He says Dan Crenshaw gets upset at a 10-year-old girl at an event and gets heckled by the crowd. And he says, don't question my faith. When I saw this on when I saw this phony guy, Dan Crenshaw, being like, and don't question my faith. Have you ever heard anybody say that to you? I've only ever heard liberals say this, and I said this on TKR Officials Telegram. I've only ever heard liberal, phony, oversensitive Christians say stuff like this. Because Jesus, his faith was questioned, and he didn't get petulant. He didn't say, don't question my faith. I'm Jesus. He wasn't like that. Give me a break. Oh, this is off limits. Put a period after Jesus and don't question my faith. Pathetic. It was such snark. I think he has that attitude because he's been groiped, and he resents having been groiped. When I say groiped, I'm talking about the groipers, the young Zoomers and some millennials who are generally Christian, generally white, and they go after him because he's pretending racism is a real thing, and they don't like his being more globalist, all that mess. And so this guy's oversensitive, and he doesn't like having to face the people. Here it is ready. Clip 12. Here this guy is on the Jocko podcast. He was promoting his 2020 book a while back, Fortitude, American Resilience in the Era of Outrage. And he's saying something like a nice type of sentiment for a normie, right? Honestly, like he's saying we shouldn't be about victimhood, we should be about being heroes. His choices of heroes, not the greatest, but listen to this.
There are certain hero archetypes. You know, like the Navy SEALs have a hero archetype, and we write about that in our SEAL ethos because it perfectly demonstrates what we believe we should be. Not what we should do, but what we should be. And that's a really interesting thing. If you write out an ethos of who you want to be, you can reach that level of elitism. You can surpass mediocrity. So that's important. I mean, that's the important thing is that we have societal hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype. Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. You know, we could name 1,000. You know, Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan. All of these people embody certain attributes that the American people think this is good. Okay, and we generally agree on these things. When I was at Disney World, or was it Disneyland? No, it was Disney World. And I was at the Star Wars land, and they're teaching these kids, you know, how to work their swords and all that. But they're also teaching them really cool things like just little Jedi lessons. Like, will you let your emotions be driven by hate and anger? You know, like really simple lessons, because we look up to the Jedi as like a hero archetype. And so there are certain things that are just viewed as good, but that's changing. And I find that to be an extremely dangerous thing, because we're elevating the aggrieved victim, the person who talks about being offended the most and who screams the loudest. We're elevating that person to a higher level in our society. And that's dangerous.
That part is right. They're propping up the victim mentality. But isn't he invoking a victim mindset when he says, don't question my faith? I won't have my faith questioned. I don't think that the apostles, they answered the questions calmly when they were questioned. Especially against like an 18-year-old. Can't he admit that it sounds kind of weird for him to be like Jesus and Superman? And then real characters too. They're hero archetypes, but real characters. And he said Rosa Parks, he's got to be a normie. I can't really hold it against him for being a... Can you hold it against him? I mean, he is supposed to be educated. But, I mean, I went to college and finished college, and I didn't hear too much about Rosa Parks in college. I learned about it in high school and a little bit, maybe in high school, maybe not in high school. But a little bit before high school, I learned about Rosa Parks. Oh, she was the one who didn't want to sit in the back of the bus or whatever, or stand or something like that. And then I learned from JLP that, oh, it was a setup. She was just an NAACP activist, agitator. Was she a lawyer? I don't know. I forget. But she was an activist. And they were going to put up somebody else who didn't want to sit down in the back of the bus. But that other woman got pregnant out of wedlock, so they used Rosa Parks. And she seemed kind of light-skinned. Kind of explains her radicalism. And the NAACP, have they ever been any good? Weren't they co-founded by that communist guy and this other woman whom I covered last week, Ida B. Wells? But this communist guy, W.E.B. Du Bois, and these people have never been decent. They're much worse today, probably, than ever, because JLP calls them worse than the KKK. And I think that that's true. They deceive the people. So she's not a real hero, but I cut him a little bit of slack because he is such a normie and he's politically correct. But that's a drawback to being all that politically correct. Dan Crenshaw is really tough. MAGA eating one of their own is great, says Wahajat Ali, some columnist for the far-left Daily Beast. He tweeted that out Tuesday. Dan Crenshaw is not and never was MAGA. He was never quite pro-Trump. We already knew that he was a panderer. Maybe less of a panderer than some, but he's a panderer. His spokesman, Justin Diskigil, said he referenced a Twitter thread posted Tuesday by this one guy named Jamison Ellis, who is running to primary Dan Crenshaw, running for Texas's 2nd congressional district, Crenshaw's opponent. In this Twitter thread, Jamison Ellis, look into this guy. Is he a decent guy? Jamison Ellis says the 10-year-old girl is actually an 18-year-old adult. He does not reveal any relationship with the questioner, who is also allegedly pictured holding an Eldest campaign yard signs before the event started. I don't blame her. Now when this rhino is being a dodgy, to use a down under word. I learned that word from Kiwis. Dodgy. That means not direct. Not seemingly on the up and up. It's sad our opponent is so desperate for attention that he uses an 18-year-old to question Dan's faith as part of a cheap political stunt, said his spokesman, Justin Diskigal, or something like that. This guy is squabbled with his own party. He labeled members of the conservative House Freedom Caucus as grifters, and they may be, and performance artists, and they may be, but he is more so. And at least they're pretending to stand for what's right. This guy's not even standing for what's right. Where has he been on the January 6th people? Has Dan Crenshaw spoken on behalf of, in favor of the January 6th people? Maybe he has. I haven't paid attention. He called Georgia Republican Marjorie Greene an idiot for criticizing his desire to involve the Federal Emergency FEMA Management Agency, FEMA, in the China virus testing efforts. And also he got groiped. Groiped. I think even real Vincent James questioned him about, because Ben Shapiro said some things about Jesus, and he, oh no, that was somebody else that was groiped. I was thinking Matt Walsh. They're all the same to me, right? All these people are the same to me. His motto, Dan comes first. For real. Interesting. What a mess, huh? So, calm down, Dan Crenshaw. Whether she was 10 or 18, I think that it's kind of irrelevant. He was acting petulant, more petulant than she was. You know what I mean? Groypers is kind of like people who go up and question these people. Don't the public have the right? Lines are full, guys. Don't the public have the right to question the phony politicians? I think that they do. It's pathetic. I have some super chats to read and some calls to get to. First, yesterday, Alexandra gave a super chat. In my opinion, I'm kind of on the fence about the Ahmaud Arbery case. That's a blah, 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 blah. The guy the jogger over in Georgia. The jogger went down to Georgia. He entered a home that he didn't belong in. Some guy said, hey, and he ran off, bolted out the door. At that point, he was no longer a jogger, but a sprinter. And he got chased by 3 white men, seemingly fairly upstanding white men who were trying to conduct a citizen's arrest. They're like, hey, and he ran off. And they basically trapped him, cornered him. And he went after a guy with a gun, and the guy with the gun ended up having to shoot him in self-defense. But technically, it can't be considered self-defense since they set up the situation. Well, this guy didn't have to, charge against the guy. But Alexander says, maybe the sight of the gun triggered his, meaning blah, 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 so the black guy, his fight or flight. You know, fight or flight is an instinct. Supposedly, it's a theory about how human behavior is when you're presented with a dangerous situation. Ooh, the sight of a gun. Fight or flight. Fight or flight. Maybe. It just bothers me, though, she says, Alexandra, that everyone jumped on it like, ooh, look, white supremacy. It was a lynching. Yeah, I know. So phony. Maybe it was ill-advised to, as Matt the American said, nowadays with the anti-white culture and the anti-gun culture in America, which is very corrupt, you're not going to get a fair trial. You're going to have the lynch mob coming after you, and they did. And now they're in jail. They're in prison, facing prison. I think that they were sentenced already. 20 or 30 years with no possibility of parole for the father and son. The father being a former detective, the son being a former military guy, military police, I think it was. And then Roddy is also getting life, but he has the possibility of parole. Isn't that crazy? They're all sentenced for quote-unquote murder. They were trying to do a citizen's arrest, and some say that the citizen's arrest, the law is not quite clear. The citizen's arrest law, they changed it on behalf of Ahmaud Arbery after he's dead. Yeah, change the law after they're dead to kiss up to the blacks. So stupid. So much like a politician. What a fake world we're living in, right? Yeah. Oh, look, white supremacy. And these guys had been somewhat familiar with this guy as a troubled youth, only except that he was like 25 or 26 years old. What a shame. The worse the blacks get, the more perfect the whites are expected to be in the cops. You know what I mean? Shameful. Base America First with the super chat states, Happy Confederate Heroes Day. That's right. It is Confederate Heroes Day. Appreciate that. Out of shout out to the Texas people. I think they're the ones who were honoring it, especially. Your girlfriend gave a super chat over on Odyssey, ODYSEE.com/@the Hake Report. but removed the comment. Well, thank you. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you, your girlfriend. Ragnar0321 says, when Charlie Kirk, kept getting groiped, he begged Crenshaw to show up to stick up for him. And they got groiped hard in Arizona, especially regarding the Israel First bogus speech. I loved it when this young groiper yelled Zioclops, because he's Cyclops, but he's also Zionist, which is it's a term for people who are Israel nationalists. And there's nothing inherently wrong with being a nationalist for Israel if you are an Israeli. But sometimes it means like globalist Zionism, which seems sketchy to be globalist like that, right? Crenshaw tried staring him down. I've got my eye on you, kid. Pretty funny. Confederate Heroes Day. Indeed. Yeah, and the Confederates were honorable men, much more honorable than the RINOs or Democrats today. I bet you most of the slave owners were more honorable and more upright than the Democrats and RINOs today, who are just a bunch of cowards and pathetic. You know what I mean? Speaking of Confederate Heroes Day, let me get to Rodney in Indiana. How are you doing, Rodney?
Hey, Hake, how are you?
Doing well.
Doing well. I had called earlier in the week. I was the guy we talked about Unicorn and everything earlier this week.
Hey, I'm getting a lot of background noise. What did you say?
Give me 1 sec.
What in the world? Rodney.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I had called earlier. You know, I was the Marine. We had to talk about Marine Corps and everything earlier this week.
Okay.
You had mentioned before my call was over about Confederate Heroes Day. Happy Confederate Heroes Day, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Same to you. Happy Confederate Heroes Day.
And my question to you was regarding what do you believe that's really about? Because what I was told, which I find it very hard to believe, that that war was fought strictly over slaves.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's been a tool to use to divide. However, when I try to look the things up, it's like everything is blocking out. It's like everything's blocking out the truth, so it's hard to find real information. So I was wondering if you could, in your opinion, and or point me in the right direction.
Well, you might check with TKR official. Get on the TKR official Telegram. That guy Asmodor is a bit of a. I regard him as somewhat of an historian, and he can point you to some authors who know their stuff as far as sources go. But
Right.
I generally see it as the South was seceding. And one of the things, even in the mainstream education, one of the things that Abraham Lincoln, who was president at that time, and there were some shenanigans with his election, or maybe the re-election, he was president at the time, he said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So clearly it was not just slavery. It was, for one, the North did not want the South to secede from the Union, which the South, I think it's constitutional. The South, different states have the right to secede. But he did not want that to happen. And it's understandable on a money standpoint, because I think that the North was getting money from the South by way of taxes and things. And the South had various gripes with the North. They had two completely different cultures, or maybe not completely, but quite different cultures. The North was more industrialized, to my knowledge, I guess, or starting to get more in factories and things like that. And the North did not want, I think they did not want the intermixing so much of the blacks and the whites to be dealing with one another. But in the South, the blacks and whites were inherently dealing with one another, because in most cases, the whites were like either just whites or they were slave owners, and they had to deal with their slaves. And in some cases, the slaves got their freedom and became slave owners. So there was a little bit of I wouldn't call it integration, but they were dealing with one another more. And the North, that was like a plate of boogers. That is literally how they saw how the South were with dealing with blacks. It's not as if the North had love for blacks in general.
Yeah, I recall reading some Thomas Sowell, and he was stating that the culture that you see with the blacks today was the culture of the Southern rednecks back then. And when I started reading on that blew my mind, because the first thing you hear about anything, especially when it comes to quote unquote gangster things, is, oh, you're culturally appropriating.
I know, huh? Yeah.
And it's like, well, do you really know where that comes from? And then
that's funny.
No. Yeah. Well, anyways, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate your questions. Good to hear from you again,
problem.
Rodney. Take care.
No problem. You as well.
All right. Whew. Asmodor states about Dan Crenshaw, quotes him as saying, "You're going to regret asking that question," to one of the young guys, kids, or young men who asked him about his support for Israel. And that's a creepy statement. It is somewhat realistic because there is this witch hunt against anybody who criticizes the establishment support for, like, Israel and stuff. It's considered anti-Semitic and all that mess. But in normal conversation, normal people should not be for that. So he should also condemn that type of culture that would smear a young man for asking a question and being critical of it. Because we're in America, we should have the freedom of speech. And if somebody has a beef or hatred in his heart, you let the person have a beef or hatred in his heart, rather than try to get them fired and all that mess. That's only going to spread more hatred and suspicion. You know what I mean? Very creepy. Not good. It's on the record forever, he said, with the video. You know, you're on video saying something, and the evil people will use it against you. And so you do have to watch your words and don't be recording yourself doing and saying all kinds of stupid stuff. What a mess, though, huh? Terrible. Dan Crenshaw, by the way, his stock trading, according to Texas Signal, yielded the 5th highest return in Congress. And he's only been in for like 4 years. Not even 4 years. 3 years. Crazy. Man, let me get to Gabe out of Michigan. Gabe, how are you doing, man?
Good, Hake. How are you?
Fine. What's up?
Hey, I don't know if you saw this at all, but CARHARTT, a Michigan-based company, the clothing company.
I had never heard of them before, but I heard about them yesterday. Go on.
Yeah, so you know, what the Supreme Court said that they ruled against Biden's emergency executive order for the forcing workers to get vaccinated.
Yeah, with companies 100 employees or more, all their workers
Correct.
are forced to get vaccinated or test weekly or something. Yeah.
So CARHARTT, I believe the original statement was by January 4th, you would have to be vaccinated or you would face repercussions, most likely fired. Now they doubled down on it as of, I think within this last week, that they, regardless of what the Supreme Court states, that they will continue with this.
Wow.
So
I'm not surprised.
That would affect like 3,000 employees is what they said. I think they have over 5,000 employees worldwide. But they do, I think they did offer religious and medical exemptions.
Right.
But at that point, it's like, well, so there's plenty of people trying to boycott them and plenty of people buying in, stock in them. So it's further dividing.
Yeah, for sure. They were founded in 1889. CARHARTT, CARHARTT, a supposedly American apparel company founded in 1889, known for heavy-duty work clothes such as jackets, coats, overalls, coveralls, vests, shirts, jeans, dungarees, fire-resistant clothing, and hunting apparel. Supposedly a family-owned company owned by the descendants of founder Hamilton Carhart and headquartered in Dearborn, Michigan. Huh. And they're just cowering and caving to the... I don't know who this Mark Valadi, who is the CEO of Carhartt is, but he's the one who wrote that letter or signed it anyway. And they're just going right along with the mainstream culture, pretending that forcing people to do this stuff is in the best interests of the people, but it's not. They're just I don't know what the motivation is, but I read this stuff, or it seems to me that much of this stuff is pandering to the lynch mob, the mob, basically. Kind of like how Dan Crenshaw does, pandering to the mob of the greater but lesser, more evil culture of shutting people down if they're not pro-vax. Ridiculous. Pro-vax mandate. Huh.
Yeah, it's insane.
I saw this also on TKR Official's Telegram. I hadn't really known much about it. I saw some tweets about it, but I didn't get it. But over there on TKR Official, he had alternative places where you can get clothes for cheaper and quality and possibly even made in America. So you have your options.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. What do you think about that? Had you been familiar already with them?
Yeah, I mean, I purchased their stuff because it's a good product. It holds up well in the outdoors. And now I'm like, what the crap? Like, I mean, I'm not gonna just burn it. They have a chance to, I guess, rectify their wrong if they want. But if not, then I'm out. Like, there's no point in me putting my money there.
I agree. It's hard to live in the world because most of these companies are doing this stuff, but there are people out there doing their research and putting out good alternatives for this. So support the good alternatives if you can. What a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't throw it away because...
No, you already spent your money. They're not making more money just because you have their stuff. You might cover their... you don't want to advertise them, I guess. I don't know, but... It's not that big of a deal. You can if you want to, but they're not. It's a mess. There's so many companies that are doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think my company will be joining them shortly, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. I wish you well, man.
All right. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You as well, Gabe. Take care. Okay, guys, one line open. Before I get back to calls, I want to talk a little bit more about the mess going on in the world. For example, this immigration thing, 1.6 million so-called U.S. immigration cases, invasion cases, currently backlogged. 1.6 million in their backlog due to a spike in arrivals, scamdemic delays, court closures over the China virus, right? Immigration courts under the so-called Justice Department are overwhelmed with cases of illegals and so-called immigrants and wannabe refugees, in all of them, many of them, if not all, invaders, so-called immigrants waiting longer to learn if they'll be deported. Why don't we just close the border? What a mess. Robert Lee says, I'm wearing Carhartt long johns right now. I had never heard of them before. What a shame, though, huh? Just overwhelm the system. How communist is that? Overwhelm the system so that you can break it and replace the whites. But that's a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy because you're openly doing it. It's a culture. It's a corrupt culture. So sick, huh? Man, let me get to one more call, and then hopefully I'll cover this One American News Network thing. Denny is a first-time caller out of Bulgaria. Denny, nice to hear from you, man.
Hello, Mr. Hake. How are you doing?
Doing well. It's great to hear from you.
Can you hear? Good to hear from you too. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfectly.
All right. Very quick. I know you're busy. Real quick, I just wanted to share some information with you. I know that you and Reverend Jesse Leverson, you're often talking about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share something. It was about a pope. He died about probably 15 or 17 years ago. His name was John Paul II. He was a pope originally from Poland. And when he visited Bulgaria, I think in the 70s, but I'm not certain, 70s or 80s, there was an assassination attempt on him. Luckily, he survived, of course. And decades later, I think in the 90s or after the new millennium started, people were a little bit feeling guilty. And he visited the country again, second time, and openly speaking about forgiveness and openly speaking about that the past is irrelevant because it's no longer here and it doesn't really exist. And I was, I think, either 14 or 15 years old when I heard those words, and it really resonated with me, and I wanted to share this with you and your listeners.
Nice.
I think it's a pretty good story, and he acted like a real man. He was remarkable in every shape and form. May his soul rest in peace. And that's basically what I wanted to share with you.
That's cool, man. Forgiveness is important, and I think people are blind without it.
And, well, blind is probably full of rage. That's why they can't see. But unlike the current Pope, the previous one, not the previous, but this young Paul II, he was a real Pope. He really was a symbol of Christianity. He was very fair and very outspoken. He wasn't... I'm an Orthodox Christian. We don't see the Pope as a holy figure. We see him as a political figure that happens to be associated with religion.
Yeah, that's how I see him.
We don't consider them something special.
You said you're Orthodox Christian?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Main difference, we believe that the church is within you, and we don't really go that much to church.
Oh, okay.
And not going to church also has something to do with the fact that during the Russian occupation after the World War II, most of the priests were KGB agents, and as you probably know, it's not very good to confess your sins in front of a KGB agent.
Wow. That's amazing.
It doesn't
That's
end
cool.
well. Yeah, it is. But that's basically the belief that you don't really, church is nothing but a building, and you have it in you. You don't really need it unless you want it.
Yeah, right.
But I really wanted to share this information with you. I think it's interesting, and I hope it's useful. Thank you, Mr. Hake, for taking the time to hear me out. Thank you for navigating me yesterday how to call.
Yeah.
All the best, sir, and be blessed.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Denny. Take care.
Bye.
All right. That's cool. I've heard so many different things about the popes. I don't know what to believe. But this Francis guy, I don't really trust him. I have a quote shared by Asmodor over there in Odyssey. A quote from Theodore Roosevelt. That was the good Roosevelt, not to be confused with his, nephew or baby cousin or something like that, FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt. I think they were related loosely. But Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, older man, former president, he stated on Robert E. Lee regarding the great Confederate general and American hero, Robert E. Lee, "The world has never seen better soldiers than those who followed Lee, and their leader will undoubtedly rank, without exception, as the very greatest of all the great captains that the English-speaking people have brought forth." Nice. That's cool. One of the Confederate heroes. I saw a quote from, I wonder if I have this quote handy. Ooh, and it was a shocking statement that I did not know about and had not considered regarding the aftermath of the American Civil War, because we were taught that the American Civil War, after it ended, all was well and everybody was just reconstruction, just rebuilding. It was pleasant. Everybody forgave each other. I mean, yeah, Lincoln got shot and killed. I don't know what that was about. But this is a quote purportedly from Robert E. Lee, General-in-Chief, Army of the Confederacy, to acting Texas Governor Fletcher S. Stockdale. I don't know exactly when this was, but it was after the war and amid perhaps the Reconstruction. I heard that Robert E. Lee helped with Reconstruction, and maybe that was under duress. Reconstruction, man, now when I put it in the context of present day stuff and these nicey sounding words, American Rescue Plan, ooh, it sounds evil. And I had never regarded it as possibly evil. But he states this, Governor, talking to the Texas Governor, Fletcher S. Stockdale, Robert E. Lee states, Governor, if I had foreseen the use those people designed to make of their victory, referring to the North, I think, the Union, there would have been no surrender at Appomattox. Am I pronouncing it right? I used to want to call it Appomattox. Sorry to butcher the name in the middle of a great General Robert E. Lee quote, but I always read it as Appomattox because I was homeschooled a lot, and then I don't remember, I didn't pay much attention to history, but it's Appomattox, right, guys? But that's where Appomattox Courthouse is where he surrendered. Two gentlemen, right? Lee and Grant. Grant was kind of a drunk, but no, sir, not by me. There would have been no surrender by me, he says. Had he known what they designed to do, what they had planned to do with their so-called victory, the North supposedly won. Had I foreseen these results of subjugation, he's saying this, he's implying, I think, that the South was subjugated by the North afterwards, by the Union, the feds, if you will, the feds imposing on the South. You can see why the South has a beef to this day. I would have preferred to die at Appomattox with my brave men, my sword in my right hand. Wow. So not all people were happy with this Reconstruction stuff. And if you think about it, there was constant beef over, they were smearing the South over the Jim Crow laws. I'm sure that there was right and wrong done amidst all of that. And I'm sure that was right and wrong done by the North and the feds, the federal so-called government, imposing on the South. And you see that to this day. You see the federal government imposing anti-discrimination laws, which are an injustice. An injustice. To this day. That's why I say that many of the Confederate heroes and many of the Southerners are the real Americans. Are the real Americans, because they're actually for freedom. And they were actually Christian many times. And actually showed actual love for the blacks, not this fake love where you are forced to pretend like you want to live around them and all that mess. Give me a break. That's forced love is not love. But that's what the phony government wants to push. Diversity. Oh, yeah, that's going to work. The beautiful Confederate heroes. And anybody calling them losers is a loser himself and an anti-American because they are our brothers. Anyway, let me get to Joe in Phoenix, Arizona. He wants to talk about this situation. What's up, Joe?
Good morning, James.
Hey.
Yes, it is Appomattox.
Yeah. What a mess.
And Booth killed Lincoln because he wanted to preserve slavery. Those were his words.
John Wilkes Booth, American stage actor.
Yes,
born in Maryland. Died in Virginia.
Family, actually, yeah.
Was Maryland the South?
Maryland was not the South, really, but it was a border state, and he was a very pro-Confederate person.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
I'm not for assassinations. Assassinations, at least in the case of like shooting our own, that's evil. I think I'm for Trump getting Soleimani. I think I'm for that one, but I'm not for this one of Lincoln or JFK. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, SEAL Team 6 got Bin Laden and Soleimani. Absolutely. Those guys should have been killed. Anyway, the Civil War was only about slavery, James, and that's laid out very clear in the Confederate Constitution that can't be denied. The cornerstone speech by Vice President Alexander Stephens was very clear, slavery. Every single succession statement from the states when they left all mentioned slavery.
You know, if what you're saying is true, sometimes you say some suspect things and I just let it slide. If what you're saying is true, who cares? Slavery is nothing to be ashamed of.
Everything I'm saying is easily verified, James.
But it's quite clear that the North didn't particularly care about slavery. They wanted the South to stay in the Union. So that's why the North fought to keep the South in the Union, to impose on them not to let them leave.
Not quite accurate, James. Yes, the North did care about slavery. Many folks cared about slavery in the North. But yes, you are right. Lincoln's primary goal was to preserve the Union. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said, if he could preserve the Union without freeing a slave, he'd do it. If he had to free all the slaves to preserve the Union, he'd do that too.
Right. So it's about money, and the South had more gripes than just the slavery imposition, because the South today still have their gripes, and they don't want slavery now. They don't care about slavery. Nobody wants a slave. I don't even want a pet, much less a slave. It's too much responsibility.
Well, that's a shame. There's lots of dogs that need a good home in this pandemic, so you should reconsider that. But anyway, it's very clear in the Confederate Constitution it was about slavery, preserving slavery.
I'm sure that they mentioned the right of the people to own the slaves. I'm sure that was mentioned, but I think that there was a lot more going on than just slavery, and slavery is nothing to be ashamed about anyway.
Well, we disagree on that. We've argued about that many times. Owning another human being is an evil, evil thing.
I mean, we have worse evil today, and people don't own themselves. Spiritual evil is worse than physical evil. I don't want to not be free, and I wouldn't want to have to deal with having a slave. I don't want that situation back. Who cares? But I think you do identify with your blackness, though, because you would not be emotional.
You would not with your so-called whiteness.
Listen.
I'm just stating facts, James.
No, but you have a clear hang-up with slavery. Even the Bible, when it says, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters, for this is right." You have a master, Jesus, and you're a slave to Jesus. So obey your masters. If you can get your freedom, do so. You have a hang-up with that. So I think that even though you have never experienced slavery, you may have read a lot about it. You may know a lot about it. You have this hang-up because you're identifying with the blacks who are long dead, who were once slaves. And I don't even think that they felt about it the way that you guys feel about it. I say you guys because there's more than one black who's emotional about slavery today. And it's so ridiculous.
It's not emotional. It's just simple facts and understanding what happened, what it really was. That's all it is.
No, it's emotional. It's emotional, intellectual. It's unnecessary to be fighting about it. It's funny that anytime I talk about this topic, you call in. That's a response.
Because you spread disinformation about it. That's why.
That's not true. What have I said that's not true?
Slavery is not that bad. The Civil War was not about slavery. Both of those are evil lies, James.
I never said that the Civil War was not at all about slavery. I never said that, and I said in many ways, slavery wasn't that bad. They overblow it. You clearly know that.
Oh my goodness, James. I mean, that is such an ignorant thing to say.
It's not an ignorant thing to say. It's a common sense thing to say. Everybody knows that there were good and bad slave owners. It's common sense. And many slaves loved their masters.
Many times before.
Many slaves loved their masters. True or false? True or false? Many slaves loved their masters.
False.
False? Now you're ignorant. Now who's being ignorant?
James, a person is not a thing. It's not chattel. That alone negates everything you're saying.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because between human interactions, one can love one another, even in a situation that doesn't seem fair to you.
Not about fairness, James.
Yes, it is about fairness.
Is a person, or are they a thing, James?
They are proper. They can be a person and property at the same time.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can.
No, they can't.
You're ignorant.
A human being is not property of someone else.
A human being is oftentimes property of someone else. You know this.
That's the evil. That's the evil that
you don't know what evil is. You talk like a communist. You don't talk like you're actually Christian.
Don't see or don't want to see.
Here, your girlfriend gave a super chat on Streamlabs. Joe, Lincoln's primary goal was preserving the Union. Also, Joe, the Civil War was only about slavery. Pick one. Got you there.
No, you didn't get me at all. The Civil War was clearly, the primary goal was about the South preserving and extending slavery. And yes, Lincoln may have had more than one motivation, but the primary goal for the South was to preserve and extend slavery, period. That's the answer.
As Medora states, if it's not about his blackness, then why doesn't Joe decry the Muslim enslavement of millions of Europeans or the Roman enslavement of Britons and Gallic Celts, etc.? Why isn't he going on and on about slavery in the world today being inflicted by Africans and Arabs?
I don't go on and on about the Civil War. Just call in when you bring it up. And yes, all slavery is evil, as Majority listeners. That all slavery is evil.
What a mess.
Not that hard to decry that. Good grief.
Is abortion worse than slavery?
Worse than? I'd say yes.
You would say abortion is worse than slavery?
Yes, because it's killing a human being.
Exactly. And slavery, you can treat your slaves well and fairly.
That's where we disagree. Owning someone as chattel and denying their humanness is almost like a death.
They are not denying their humanness. If they taught them to be Christians, they are inherently admitting that they are humans. They taught them to be Christians.
James, they had no rights as a human being. They had no standing as
Yes,
a human
they did.
being.
They had shelter. They had food. They were allowed a certain level of freedom. They weren't allowed to go about as much as you and I would like. What a mess.
Owned and can be bought and sold like chattel, that is not being treated as a human being thing. And you can try
That's your definition of a human being.
Or cover it over all you want.
That's your definition of a human being.
That's any decent person's definition of a human being.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Yeah.
No, not true. A decent person would not support the Democrat Party ever, and you supported Obama, who was very pro-abortion. And yet you think he was a great president. Trump was not.
I never supported Obama. I just spoke about the good things he did. That is it.
All right.
And again, for the 10th time, or 10 millionth time, abortion declined under Obama, not just because it was declining anyway.
He expanded it. He expanded it, and he defended it.
He did not expand it.
He expanded it, he defended it, he promoted it.
He is on record of saying he wanted to see fewer abortions and more adoptions.
That's pure lip service. Lip service is not action. His actions belie his real intentions. And he even defended the notion that his daughters could kill their babies if they make a mistake. I wouldn't want them punished with the baby, implying that he would want his own daughters to kill his grandchild.
That's just lip service.
Alleged grandchild.
That's just lip.
You see, now you're just repeating me because you know you lost.
And it didn't happen. Did it? No, his daughters didn't get pregnant. Did they? No, because he's a good father.
See, more blindness. Anyway, I got to go, man. Nice talking with you.
Have a good day.
All right, you as well. Guys, we are at the top of the hour. I will get to Brian upcoming next and Jason in Kansas. And the rest of the callers, Dr. ADD and Luka in Indiana. Lines are full, guys. One line open right now, just now. But first, I have to share with you what I consider to be a nice song. This is from Human Television. I've been playing them for like 3 weeks now. This track is entitled Automobile, and it's from the 2004 CD, I'll call it, because I don't know if it's an album or an EP. All songs written by Human Television, Automobile. Enjoy, or cover your ears, you musical Philistines, press mute. And I'll be right back for hour 2. Hang tight.
are different, I think. The waste of time will not foresee from all of the beauty you can give from her. I crushed your mind this afternoon. Well, oh yeah, me too. 'Cause we'll all be leaving pretty soon. Yeah. Could not believe the sound that comes out of your mouth. Your voice much like a didgeridoo. What did you do? And you? Have I crushed your mind this afternoon? Well, oh yeah, me too. 'Cause we'll all be leaving pretty soon. Hey, you don't know. The voice is like a bridge to the moon. And look out with that house. 'Cause we'll all be leaving pretty soon.
Sounds like post-punk somewhat, says Max Rex. Yeah, a little bit. Totally 90s, says Misty8976. Well, it was early 2000s. Sounds like The Cure, but worse. He said a different word, says James Pointer. For once, Hake's music is only half bad. Sounds like it was written by those who wish to control everything. Whoa. Whoa, what could you be referring to? Top Oracle. That would be Joe from Phoenix in the chat, in the YouTube chat. Has a love and hate thing with Hake. Viewer USA says, slavery can be done ethically, and there is an ethical and godly way about being a master or a servant in God's way. But there's also evil ways that can go against the way, the evil masters and evil servants. Yep. I don't see how the creator would say slavery is okay. I don't care what the books say, says Robert Lee. I didn't say it was ideal, but it's just a situation. Gives me a 90s feel. Wall of Noise going on, too. Pretty decent, says Apocalypse Bear. Nice. Well, thank you. One Bags SXR states, this guy is not smart at all. He's one-sided, as one mind doesn't think outside the box and is very polluted with his party's belief in his blackness. Well, his party is supposedly the Rhino Republicans because he's a black rhino. If you're referring to Joe from Phoenix. I miss the metal music, Hake, says Isaiah Johnson. This is Top's favorite band, says Epstein's Ghost, always going after him. Time to listen to someone else for a few minutes, says James. Hake's music choices stink. Play Iron Maiden, says Louie. Louie. Blazing Hog says, Top Oracle, that should be your best call ever. Wow. Very interesting. Ooh, lots of chats over there in the Odyssey land. How is the war, asks Asmodor, about the South preserving slavery when the North started the war and invaded the South to preserve the Union and not slavery? After Lincoln and the Republicans had offered a constitutional amendment to make slavery permanent in the South, asks Asmodor. Yeah, we've been over this and over it. The slave Joseph in the Bible, Commander Kim points to, somebody I told you guys about. He rose to the top wherever he was placed. Yeah, he was the top slave in Potiphar's house. Potiphar's wife Me Too'd him. She's all, oh, he tried to rape me, when she's the one who tried to sleep with him, and he's all, no, I'm not going to dishonor Potiphar. Potiphar's wife, evil woman, lying woman. She grabbed his coat, he ran off and left the coat, and she's all, oh, he tried to sleep with me, lying woman. And so he got thrown in prison, and then he was a top man in prison. And then he was able to interpret dreams. He could interpret that one man was going to die and one man was going to live. One man lived, like he became like a baker, and he baked for the pharaoh or something. And the pharaoh said he had a dream, and he's all, somebody needs to interpret my dream. And then the baker remembered Joseph he had forgotten him up until this point, and then he remembered Joseph in prison, languishing in prison, although he was a top man. And so he said, Joseph can interpret your dream, Pharaoh. And so Joseph interpreted the dream about 7 years of, I don't know, something like 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine coming up for you, man. We got to prepare for the famine. So they prepared for the famine, and then Joseph became the second in command. And then his brothers, who had sold him off into slavery, kidnapped him and threw him in a pit and then sold him off into slavery, and took his coat of many colors and dipped it in like goat's blood and showed it to Jacob Israel, and said, your favorite son, he's been killed by a wild animal. When in reality, they sold him to the Egyptians into slavery. What a mess, huh? But his brothers came groveling to him for food, and he recognized them. And he was like, oh man, my brothers. He got all emotional, and he forgave them. Isn't that nice? They were scared, though, because they did him dirty. What a mess. Ollie Dat A says, people are just emo-driven and like to be outraged. Slave owning and slave trading are two very different things. Most of the victim horror stories about slavery refers to the practices involved with the slave trade, which was actually already banned almost everywhere, if not everywhere. Interesting. Yep. What a mess. All right, so let me first get to Brian in California. He wants to talk about the Civil War. Brian, thanks for calling, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Hey, how you doing, man? Good morning.
Morning. Doing well, thank you.
Happy, what is it? Happy Confederate Soldiers Day. Is that a real thing?
Confederate Heroes Day. Yes, it is. It's a real thing.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to touch on this Civil War stuff we've been talking about. Dude, from my understanding, growing up, I was taught that the Civil War, so yes, the South was fighting to keep their slaves, but that wasn't entirely why they were fighting.
Yeah.
It's like you said, they were seceding, and one of the last straws that made them want to secede and made the war start out was the introduction of federal government and, you know, more rules and regulations and stuff like that. Because the North wasn't even originally fighting to keep their slaves. They did that near the end of the war, and so like the main cause of the Civil War was the South wanted to break off and become their own country, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yep. They felt that they felt that the North was doing to them similar to what England was doing to the colonies.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, it was just like that all over again.
Right.
And a lot of slaves, even going back to like Bible times, a lot of slaves realized that they were living a better life with their slave masters because they could treat them better than they were able to take care of themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that, and also too, all right. So
you cut out there. What did you say? Brian, you cut out.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got a crappy phone. Okay, so I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that. And then also, my question for you. I have these Mormon missionary friends, and they like all I ever want to talk about is like, you know, stuff that like you and JLP talk about on your show and stuff. And they always seem to not want to talk about that stuff. I can't really get an opinion out of them on any of it. And I just want to know what your thoughts are.
Man, you cut out again, Brian. Your phone really is messed up. I'm sorry.
Hold on, man. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you cut out intermittently. So.
Oh man.
What did you want my opinion about? See if you can spit it out.
The Mormon Bible. The Mormon Bible.
Oh, I've never read it. The Book of Mormon. I've never read it.
Yeah.
I know that they have some strange ideas that I learned about when I was a kid, seemingly strange. And they tend to be rhinos, although so do Christians, but normal Christians. But they tend to be rhinos. Look at how they elected Mitt Romney after that guy totally betrayed and backstabbed Trump. I think they have a false guilt going on, like many of the whites, about the blacks, because they didn't really consider blacks. I don't know what they considered about blacks, like fallen angels or something like that. And I have no idea. They seem I've known some Mormon families as in my childhood, and I've known some as coworkers and things, and they're generally pretty decent people, but they're also kind of emotional. And I like the families, big white families, most of them. But I think that they need to get it together and stop being guilty and stop kissing up to blacks and all that stuff.
Yeah,
they need to not be rhinos and not be all nicey nice. Just like all the whites, really, and Christians.
Yeah.
We have a false version of love that's going on in the world.
Yeah, there really is. It's like all these people that are like kissing up to the blacks and stuff. And it's like their whole thing is they're just trying to prove that they're not racist. Like that makes you such a great person.
Yeah. Pathetic. Anyway, man.
All right, hey, thanks.
Good to hear from you, Brian.
You too. Thanks, man. I'll be calling again sometime.
All right. Take care. Quick super chat from Azador over there on Odyssey. The soldiers fighting on both sides felt they were fighting over different interpretations of the Constitution. Yeah, I think that he referenced in prior chats that they had written down, journals and letters and things about their feelings on the war and why they were fighting. And it was not, just put it this way, it was not all about slavery or even necessarily primarily about slavery. In fact, very few people in the South really owned the slaves. Ali says, the manner in which the term slavery is employed in modern time is just an anti-human language tactic employed by the easily tricked followers of the cult to dehumanize and validate hate and ask for more free things. It's by nature a satanic tool. Yeah, when you call a white a racist, you're dehumanizing them. And then the tricksters want to pretend, oh no, we want to humanize them. We want to see them as fellow humans, but that's just such a female mindset. I'm talking about there's this black guy, Cornel West. Yeah, tricksters. Cornel West pretends to be fair-minded and all that mess. Pathetic. Lin Yen Chin, several super chats, with a few super chats. Some call it several. Destiny, the radical lesbian in the body of a man, spams her insecurity blanket phrase, the facts of the matter, especially as she raged about, he's calling her, the supposed intuition that nobody else mentioned. We know it was just hatred for common sense. Yeah, he's referencing my debate with Destiny and T-Jump and this transgender named Amy Newman, whom I sat right next to, in the modern day debate, Dallas, Texas appearance, one of my appearances on Sunday. Destiny seems to believe the facts of the matter means reality instead of standard bias, shallowness of interpretation of intellectuals regarding given circumstances. It's a depthless breakdown, like trying to absorb vitamin supplements versus real food. It's interesting because they're accusing me of going on feelings, right? Because my sense is that there's something wrong with going along with the transgender madness. You don't support people in their delusions or in their inability to accept reality, right? But these people are literally going off the feelings of the transgenders by referencing these studies that measure their supposed happiness level, mental wellness level, as supposedly having improved by doing the transgender surgery and medical shenanigans, hormone shenanigans and all that stuff. When in reality, that's just pandering to their feelings. And it's supposedly even long-term. And so they're catering to their feelings. I'm not the one going on feelings. I just have a sense that it's not right. Lin Yen Chin goes on, autism requires everything follow one clear and coherent mapping of relation as defined by cause and effect. Or it's just forming redundant compartments like intellectuals in haughty breakdown of everything but holding no understanding of anything. Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Why don't they investigate the cause of the transgenderism? JLP has said that they've taken on the mother's spirit, the woman's spirit. And they totally just act like a woman. Why don't they look into that, like the cause, rather than, ooh, let's see if chopping this thing off and putting these chemicals into your body will help. Why not just go with the basic root? Look for the cause. But they're not honest people. Atheists, what can you do? Blind people. But thank you, Lin Yan Chin. Appreciate the super chats. And over there on Odyssey, too. I got to get to Jason in Kansas. It's been on hold forever. Jason, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Hake?
Fine, thank you.
I had called in about something, but could I say something real quick about Joe?
If it's not slanderous, yes.
No, it's not. Because you asked him, why do you people get so hung up on the slavery thing?
Right.
And he responded, it's about understanding what it was. And I thought, why does that even matter?
Right.
What is understanding what it was? And that's really what he said.
Yeah.
How is that helping him?
Right. That's a good response. That's a good observation. Because he's saying it's just about the facts of the matter and you're putting out misinformation.
Yeah.
And then he falsely accuses me of saying that it had nothing to do with slavery. I never said it had nothing to do with slavery. I just said slavery wasn't that bad in many cases. And he's claiming that it was that bad. Where is Joe in debunking the all these people who push all this melodrama and slave movie after slave movie and World War II movie after World War II movie and all that mess? You know what I mean? It's pathetic.
I do.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out real quick.
Good point.
I wanted to ask if you think, are you convinced that thoughts are lies?
I do know that thoughts are lies. I don't know. I don't know if I'm convinced that all thoughts are lies. I definitely fall for them sometimes. So I guess I'm not convinced.
Reason I asked is because I thought I was convinced, but this past week we've been a little slow at work because of the weather. It's been real cold out here.
In Kansas.
Been real cold out here. Yeah. And I work outdoors, so my job is based on the weather a lot. So I've been having a lot of downtime. And I started thinking about stuff that I used to do before I started listening to Jesse.
Yeah.
I was not a good person. I wasn't a good person. And
are you eating?
I'm not.
You're not? Okay. Not anymore?
No, I smacked my lips, sorry.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. I was just curious. There was another caller who was eating on my show earlier this week.
Really?
But, yeah, but it's all right.
You've got to start kicking people off your show.
I know. Oh, my gosh.
Too many chances. But so what I'm trying to say is I've been having a lot of downtime, and I started thinking about the past. I started thinking about the stuff I used to do before I forgave my dad and everything, and I was not a good person and stuff. And
right.
I was thinking, while I was thinking it, about all the stuff I used to do, I started getting kind of like, I don't want to sound like a beta, but I started getting kind of down on it, you know, and I kind of went like, man, I can't believe I used to do that, or I can't believe I did that before. And I want to know what you thought of that, because if I wasn't thinking about the past, about my past self, I wouldn't feel that way. So I wanted to see what you thought about that.
I think you're probably right about that. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Is that a fair response? I think you're right that you are getting caught up in mess that you don't even need to be worrying about. It is funny though. You think back about things and kind of cringe about stuff.
Right.
I can relate.
That's what I'm doing. I go.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think about it and I go, man, I can't believe I used to do this kind of stuff or think like this, and I kind of get down on myself. You know, I start going like, man, you know, you can't come back from that, and just stupid things like that.
Yeah, so that's partly why you shouldn't be thinking like, oh, I got it now, or I don't have it. Don't just keep on living.
You think it's a sign that I don't have it, that I wouldn't have to ask this?
I wouldn't analyze it like that.
Yeah.
Because if you're analyzing it, you're not seeing. You're trying to figure out. And that's not wise.
Yeah.
You could call JLP
Yeah,
on this, man. This is more up his wheelhouse, but that's my best advice is don't even pay it mind. I mean, pay attention to yourself. But do you realize that you're spiraling into thinking about the thinking and trying to figure out, do I have it? Do I not have it? It's a useless exercise.
Yeah, I do realize that I've been spiraling into it. Yeah.
even the question that you're asking me is spiraling.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean by that.
No, I do.
Yeah.
And that's a good word because it starts off slow and then it just spirals out of control.
Yeah.
If you let it. So that's
nice.
a good, yeah. I mean, it's just been real slow up here because of the weather, and we have a lot of downtime right now.
Yeah.
So
now is the time to pray, not the time to think and get lost in your thinking, and then thinking about your thinking, and then think about there's thinking about your thinking.
I don't get paid to think. That's what one of my coworkers said.
Nice.
You don't get paid to think.
Right. But you do get paid to pay attention, so pay attention. Don't cut your hand off or your fingers.
Yeah,
I don't know what type of work you do, but yeah. Don't smash your fingers.
I do weed control because out here in Kansas, there's a lot of feed yards, a lot of cow feed yards. And what we do is we go out there and do weed control. We spray their ground so weeds don't come out.
Oh,
and the
nice.
cows can be happy.
Right on.
So yeah, that's what we do. But when it's too cold out, we can't be out there.
Yeah. Cool.
So
I appreciate it, Jason.
That's all I had, James.
Good to hear from you, man. Take care.
Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Wow. Before I get back to calls, let me write a quick note. Before I get back to calls, I got to cover this story. One America News Network, ever heard of them? OANN. Kind of a mainstream, so-called conservative outlet. Not even quite to the level, I don't think, that Fox News once was in the early 90s and early 2000s. But they're, decent, I think. And I heard from JLP that DirecTV dropped One American News Network. Under duress, I think, seemingly. Under duress. DirecTV is it cable or satellite or whatever? It seems like satellite. I don't know. It's one of those things that bundles together all these different stations, and you pay for a DirecTV bundle of stations, bundle of sticks, and you get One American News Network among CNN, which is Commie Nonsense Network, and MSLSD, MSNBC, MSDNC, and Fox News, and you get all these other stations. But back in October of 2021 AD, I saw this little headline from Reuters, how AT&T, I guess they own DirecTV, right? Helped build far-right One America News Network. And it has this image of Trump's talking. First of all, Trump is not far-right. I consider him centrist. Reuters is far left. It's a Reuters Investigates article, right? Trump TV, the AT&T connection. It's a Reuters special report. And it's by this guy named John Schiffman. S-H-I-F-F-M-A-N. John Schiffman in San Diego. I don't know. He's writing a book. This John Schiffman guy, by the way, is writing a book with former Metropolitan Police Department officer Michael Fanone, who quit the D.C. police. Did you hear about this? Michael Fanone quit the D.C. police. Michael Fanone was a Capitol riot melodrama pusher. He willingly went on CNN and other stations maybe, but CNN definitely. He was talking to Don Lemon. He looked like this Chad guy, but he's a total betrayer of what's right in favor of what's evil, which I call a CUCK. Sorry, kids and adults. He's just a traitor, just pathetic. But Washington Compost, who resigned on December 20th from the D.C. police, I think he got tasered by that Mexican guy who was talking to the FBI, and he was at the Capitol building, protest, which turned into a riot in some pockets. And this Mexican guy, Hispanic guy, I think, tasered this guy, and I think this guy got a heart attack. But he was given a profile in courage by the Washington Compost, and he resigned from, he quit the D.C. police to become a CNN contributor. Give me a break. These people are not logical. So this guy, John Schiffman, who is an anti-Trump person apparently, if he's doing a book alongside Michael Fanone, and if you're not familiar, the Capitol, mostly peaceful Capitol protest, was trying to defend election integrity in favor of Trump because people were leery about what really happened, right? But it was falsely called an insurrection. Nobody died except for Trump supporters. And then some cops killed themselves afterwards, but that's not really new. Cops killing themselves a lot, it's not good. Bad situation, but who knows why they were killing themselves, or if they really did kill themselves. Who really knows? I don't know. But DirecTV is now to drop One America News Network, and Reuters reported DirecTV loss could cripple the right-wing One America News by John Schiffman. And he's so gleeful. Reminds me a lot of what they try to do with PewDiePie, the far-left RINO outlet. I call him far-left. Wall Street Journal is considered, I don't know, center-right, but they're RINOs. They're enemies of America, enemies of Christians and whites. PewDiePie is a major YouTuber guy, right? He was the #1 for years. He had like 50 million, 60 million subscribers, maybe much more than that, I don't know. And then he was more popular than the mainstream media, right? More people watch his stuff than look at these stupid mainstream media, boring, cherry-picked facts, deceiving RINO and far-left liberal anti-Christian, anti-American websites, right? Nobody likes them. And so they're jealous, so they do hit pieces on popular stuff like One America News, like PewDiePie. And they got PewDiePie to lose his gigs with like Disney and YouTube, some YouTube stuff, limited YouTube stuff. What a mess, huh? Poor PewDiePie. And he's just this Swedish, I think he's a Swedish guy who speaks English and he does funny videos mostly. But he made jokes about like, oh yes, I respect Hitler. And it's total joke. He's this total normie guy. He's an atheist, liberal, read this Jordan Peterson book and reviewed it, and friendly with like Elon Musk and these. There's just a funny guy, pop culture type of a guy. What a mess, though, huh? Ridiculous. So it's an attack on Trump. It's ridiculous. One America News Network, and I never really watched One America News Network. Sometimes I'm somewhat familiar with one of their guys, Jack Posobiec, who is a host there, and there's some other people there. Decent. But they've been going, it's not the first that they've gone after. They've just completely marginalized many whites and Christians and men. Much worse than this, but this is just another big example. They're trying to take down anybody who doesn't go along with what they say and think. It's ridiculous. Geronimo's Ghost says he said the N-word too while playing a game. They're mad about that. It's funny. I think Right Wing Watch. I saw on Nick Fuentes' Telegram. Right Wing Watch tweeted about him. Oh, he said the N-word, but they quoted him as saying the N-word is funny anyway. And it shouldn't have the fake stigma around it. It's all drama, melodrama. It's kind of like the phoniness of of my prior caller thinking that no slaves loved their masters. Man, that's talk about dehumanizing. Of course slaves loved their masters. They were Christians. Thank God for slavery, not this phony, the original sin. And you don't even believe in God and you're talking about original sin. Talk about communists. I got to get to LUKA in Indiana. LUKA, how are you doing?
Doing good, Hake.
Nice.
The second time I've called in. Thanks for taking my call.
Right on.
So we were talking about where does all this evil in the world come from? And in my research on the internet, maybe this is all, lies. Maybe it's all conspiracy. But it seems like conspiracy is always true after time passes.
Yeah.
So what I've heard is there was, back in the Atlantis days, if you believe in that, it's kind of like when we lived in the days of the Garden of Eden and it was paradise. But then apparently we were taken over by some dark force that is where Satanism came from, and they're called draconians. That's where we get the term, like draconian laws and all of this.
Oh.
And apparently they're behind everything, like they've orchestrated and funded both sides of every war. Apparently it's to do with the monarchy and all these people at the top, and they're all related. So maybe it's true, maybe it isn't, but it could explain why there's such an evil force in this world.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like to get into speculation about stuff like that.
Yeah. But it comes down to that love is the answer, and that you can't live in fear, because that's what this mainstream media wants us to do, is just be in fear so that we're easily controlled.
Right. But Atlantis doesn't have anything to do. Atlantis is like the underwater or it's underwater now. I think it was underwater even back then, right? I don't know. It was this mythical place near Greece, right?
Well, apparently
it had nothing to do with the Garden of Eden, though, right?
Well, apparently it was, and then it sank into the ocean when this big catastrophe happened.
It was what?
Because it was above ground.
Oh, okay.
It was like everything split apart, and some of it sank, and some of it even flew into the air. I mean, it depends on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go. But, it's pretty interesting stuff.
The rabbit hole of speculation. I'm not into that stuff. Yeah. How'd you get into that?
Just being on the internet, I guess, back in 2005, before there was a lot of ads and there was a lot of, false information put out there. I feel like when it first came to be, YouTube had a lot of the information that news channels and mainstream media never wanted people to know, like the truth about our existence or our heritage, the true history of humanity. But now you have to sift through so much disinformation on YouTube and all of these channels because, they don't want humanity to know the truth.
I mean, these people most of them are atheists or secularists. They have a beef with whites because whites don't agree with them. And they have a beef with Christians because Christians don't go along with their fake version of love. They're evil.
Exactly. They're trying to take everything sacred about humanity, everything to do with God, and turn it upside down.
Yeah.
Oh, you were born a male, now you're a female.
Yeah,
you're white, then you must hate blacks. Oh, you're black, then you must hate whites. But it's all being orchestrated from this mainstream media. If everybody threw away their technology and their TVs, we would just be humans getting along with each other.
I don't think so.
We wouldn't see color.
No, I don't think so.
Don't think so?
No way, because people are corrupt and evil at heart.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think humans are. I think it's this force from outside of us, which is
we are.
The satanic force.
If we weren't corrupt, we wouldn't be influenced by the media.
That's true. We would be if we weren't in a fallen state, but I think humans natural state is not the fallen state, but we are in a fallen state, so we fall for all of their tricks, and we allow anger into our hearts, but that's not the human way, I don't believe.
But the media didn't put the anger in our hearts.
Yeah, it goes way before television was even invented.
No, I'm talking about each person's heart turns evil in their life, with or without the TV.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think that's because we've been in a fallen state for a long time now, and I don't think it's the natural state of humans. I think we were.
What do you mean by
God.
Not the natural state?
Like, if we are made in the image of God, then we must be, without hate and without fear, and just like God is. But in our fallen state, we've disconnected from God, and we've allowed fear and we've allowed hate into our hearts. I don't think that's our natural state. I think our natural state is the God state, is to be like God.
Huh.
A Christ consciousness.
How did the fallen state happen?
They say, like I was just saying.
No, what do you say, though? What do you say?
Oh. How did the fallen state happen? I guess
to you. How did it happen to you?
For me personally, I think it's when we're born and we're influenced by all these other people around us. But, for me personally, it was just giving away my power to others, allowing anybody to control me in any sort of way. People who want to control others don't have self-control. The only person you can really control is yourself.
How old are you?
40. Like
You're 40?
Yeah.
Wow. You working?
Yeah.
You have a job?
Yep. I had 3 jobs before Biden, back in the Trump golden days. I had 3 jobs, but then COVID was orchestrated, and I lost one of the jobs, and the other one is just in the summer.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, still working in the cold, still making that money.
Good.
Even if Biden is making it difficult.
Do you smoke pot?
Yeah.
I can tell. You have a pot smoker type of way of speaking.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's not a compliment. The heck?
I know. So I didn't get into it till I was like 24, 25. I stayed away from it all through high school. Or I wouldn't have gotten through high school.
Well, so good for you. You want a cookie?
Yeah. I want 3 cookies.
I was joking. Man, what in the world? Are you high right now?
Yeah.
Wow, what a mess.
What a mess.
You work full time?
No, it's when they call me. It's a union job.
Wow.
What a mess.
You do JLP's silent prayer?
Yes.
Morning and night?
No, not as much as I should.
Yeah, you're a bum. You're a union bum. What in the world?
Yep, them unions. Just like the teachers union, you get tenure, and even if you're a terrible teacher, you can't be fired.
Are you a terrible worker?
No, I'm a hard worker. Because I started listening to you and Jesse Lee Peterson.
Nice, man. Well, I wish you well. Yeah. Call me again sometime.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and
have a good one.
Well, anyway, I can't even talk to a high person about getting serious about life. Take care, Luka. Thank you for the call.
You.
All right.
Have a good one.
You as well. Quick super chat here from Asmodor on Odyssey. Unless you have read, studied, and understood the Socratic dialogues called Timaeus and Critias, you shouldn't make claims about Atlantis unless looking like a moron is your goal. I should have read that to him, although I don't know if he would have comprehended it. And he also states, all Anglo-American uprisings were about violations of their constitutional agreements. The American Revolution was about the violation of their rights as Englishmen. The Texas Revolution was about the violation of the Mexican 1824 Constitution. And I have actually a picture of this that I just dragged into the folder. Texas revolutionary flag for Texas's independence. It even had, it looks kind of like the Mexican flag, but I think it was Mexico at first. and then the Anglos came in and we took over. Nice. The first revolutionary flag of Texas independence even had the year 1824 emblazoned on it. And it has a picture of this flag with the 1824 on it. I think it looked, I don't know, I could be mistaken about the color scheme. But that's the first revolutionary flag of Texas. Interesting, huh? Thank you, our resident historian. Very nice. Let me quickly get to Dr. ADD in ATD in California. How are you doing, Dr. ADD?
Hello, how you doing, Hank?
Doing well, thank you.
Guess what? You told me to get a job, and I went out and got one. So now there's no excuse. You can't call me a loser, right?
I don't know. Lots of losers have jobs, but congratulations. Right. That's cool. I mean, I think.
Right. I also wanted to mention.
So you're working now.
Where's Civil War at now?
It does not exist.
Well, it's in the past.
Right.
And that whole war was fought using period time weapons over period need.
Yeah.
People needed to work, and slavery was a means of work. And it's the same thing now with these shutdowns and the way the internet is happening and social media. People are fighting now between each other just like they did in the Civil War. They're just not using muskets.
Yeah. I mean,
people are afraid to say something or they're going to lose their livelihood, job.
They say, some say that the Marxists were cheering on the war and partly even behind the war, the so-called Civil War, the War of Northern Aggression, as some call it. And I think, though, that the Marxists today, which is the Democrats and the RINOs and silly people silly, evil people, weak, coward Dan Crenshaw, they're worse than than many, if not most, of the people back then who were fighting amongst each other and killing one another and all that.
And think about it. The people in the Civil War, they couldn't affect anybody except people that were, 100 miles away from them.
I know.
Nowadays, you got people that talk in California and affect people's jobs in New York.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the same thing. It's all a wash. It's ridiculous. But I also wanted to mention Atlantis is in Africa.
Oh, man. I'm not interested.
Look, and I'm just saying, one of the only people to describe what Atlantis looks like, right, was Leonardo da Vinci. Now, you're going to say he's a liar and he didn't know what he was looking at?
Where's Leonardo from?
Italy or something, I don't know. But he's dead now.
And you think that he went to Africa and saw Atlantis in Africa?
It's closer than coming to America.
I mean, I said it was around Greece.
That's pretty close to Africa.
Why are you saying Africa? It's unnecessary.
Well, I mean, because they found
the blacks are always trying to claim everything.
Right.
Are you black?
But no, that's all right. I just wanted to call and let you know I got a job now.
Are you black?
Cool. No.
Okay.
Why?
Because you think Atlantis was Africa.
I don't think it. I mean, I just seen evidence that points to it being in Africa and not sunken in the ocean.
Oh.
That's it.
Oh, you don't think that it did sink? Okay.
No. I mean, well...
But it's a fictional island anyway. I don't think it was real ever.
Huh?
I don't think it was real ever. I think it was just a mythical place.
Oh. Well, I guess. But I mean, all mythical things come from a root somewhere, if you look far back enough.
All right. Have you been smoking too?
Not today.
Oh. Two potheads in a row.
Stop, man. I can't be doing that kind of kid shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss.
All right. Well, take care, Dr. ADD.
Heck yeah, man. Hey, I'll call you again later.
All right. Bye. Oh, man. Let me quickly get to Rich in Victorville, California. Rich, thank you for holding. How are you doing?
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. I just wanted to ask, why do you keep fueling the race war?
What are you talking about? I'm not doing that.
Well, not feeling it. I heard what you meant. Like, why aren't people talking about like how they're pushing it in the movies, making slavery movies?
Yeah,
and
that's
Civil War
fueling
movies?
the
But
false anger of people. Somebody mentioned Django as an example of a movie where one slave loved his master, and that guy's totally mocked. And that's another movie that just pushes, that's made by a dumb liberal who hates white people and kisses up to blacks. What's that guy's name? I don't even care. But that's a race war movie, and so is 15 Years a Slave or whatever, 12 Years a Slave. All that stuff, that's pushing the race war. Not me.
Yeah, but also,
Ain't no
why
yeah,
didn't
but.
Trump or Joe Rogan, why don't they come out and say it? Because they'll get fired, right?
I don't know.
That's my point. Like,
what do you mean? You don't know what their inner thoughts are?
that's my point, though. The left, the right is no different.
You don't have a point. You're right that most of the left and most of the right are evil.
When sickness and cancer and disease comes upon all you people, don't be surprised, though.
Okay, thanks, man. Nice talking with you.
Seriously, though.
All right, goodbye. That guy's just, he's, thank you, Rich. Thank you. What a mess. Let me get to a real story, not a call. There isn't a crazy attack on Trump from this New York Attorney General. It's not just the January 6th committee. This is from far-left publisher Twitter that pretends to be a platform. New York AG, that's his black female Attorney General, Letitia James, seeks testimony from Donald Trump and family members after finding, quote-unquote, significant evidence on financial fraud. And look at this woman. Talk about putting lipstick on a pig. She is evil. This is the same woman, I will have you know, I read this in Hake News, that the Trump organization used fraudulent and misleading asset valuations. And I have no idea, nor do I care about this whole thing about Trump, because I can plainly see Trump loves America. These people hate America, and this woman hates men. And they're replacing the white man with the black woman, or they're replacing the man with the woman. This woman was behind that. This Letitia James woman. She is a corrupt black female, so-called attorney general, who is the top law enforcement officer in the state of New York, trying to subpoena Donald Trump, Don Jr., and Ivanka Trump, his children, right? 2 of his children, for over the Trump organization's financial dealings. Well, remember back, she was in the limelight just a few months ago. This is from Michael Tracy on Substack. Unprecedented abuse of power. What the media still isn't telling you about the Cuomo debacle. I told you about Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York. He should still be governor today, even though he's a Democrat. He said, if you're pro-abortion, you don't belong in New York. I mean, if you're pro-life, you don't belong in New York. He's pro-abortion. He's a sleazy Democrat, Italian mess of a person, right? Immoral, for everything evil. His brother is Chris Cuomo of CNN. The state attorney general, Letitia James, mobilized into action upon hearing Me Too accusations, the phony Me Too movement, accusing men of doing wrong things with women and with gays. Just all hearsay, gossip, accusations that have nothing to do with anybody but between those two people. But they want to go public with it because they are messy gossips and evil people. Well, this woman, Letitia James, mobilized into action, according to Michael Tracy, and received authorization from Andrew Cuomo to launch an investigation into the Me Too claims. Oh, he groped women, or he hugged women awkwardly when they didn't want to be hugged. This Democrat is a kiss up to all the women and kissing up to the blacks and kissing up to killing the babies. And he's all woman on the inside, but he's man enough on the outside to be hated as a male. So they wanted to replace him. But the people kept on voting for him, right? They're used to seeing him. They know him. And so they didn't use the mob this time. They used the the false lynch mob of the Me Too, mainstream media, and these fake politically motivated attorneys general in their office, like Letitia James, a black female. And the media became PR agents for both supposed victims of Cuomo and for Letitia James, who, interestingly, she received authorization from Andrew Cuomo to investigate the claims against him, with the stipulation she would appoint independent attorneys to run this investigation. In light of her enormous conflict of interest, she planned to run for governor herself. So she was going to end up running against him had he been still here, or against somebody like that. She touted herself as a victim's fearless champion. We must believe women. I think she even used I could be mistaken, but I think she might have even used the term believe women, which she said, oh, he definitely committed crimes, but we can't charge him. What? What a phony woman, huh? And the mainstream media did not say, what is this black woman doing? This black attorney general doing, ousting the governor, being behind the ousting of the governor. And he resigned. Andrew Cuomo resigned because he's a coward and he can't take the heat. Cuomo would almost certainly never have been defeated in New York Democrat primaries, and his progressive antagonists in the party would not have been able to topple him except by this coup. Interesting, huh? And so this woman, you trust her to go after Trump? Honestly? Without fear or favor? Give me a break. By the way, listen to this sequence of events. October 27th, the word began to trickle out that Letitia James would be announcing a run for governor in 2022. And less than 24 hours later, the bombshell leak. Forcible touching charges had been filed against Cuomo in Albany court. But there was all this confusion about, did it really? And no, there wasn't. And how did she know? But the mainstream media didn't care. Don't criticize the black woman. That's racist. Don't hold her to her job. Don't make her be honest. These blacks are just so shameless. And they'll get away with it because of the mainstream media. But I think we too should be shameless as well with the truth, though, and for what's right. That's why I appreciated Trump, because he was kind of shameless about that stuff. And then, like, within days, too, October 25th, there was a criminal complaint, too. October 27th, she announced a run. The complaint was filed in court and leaked within minutes on October 28th, causing Letitia James to release a statement proclaiming validation. And on October 29th, Letitia James officially announced her run for governor. What an amazing sequence of consequences, notes this liberal, independent journalist, Michael Tracy. You can read his whole long article on Substack if you are interested in getting like the real deal on it. But it's crazy. Look at that. And did he appoint her or was she elected? Ridiculous, huh? Letitia James gave the contention in August that the purpose of her investigation into Cuomo's Me Too accusations, fake Me Too smear, was to demonstrate why the public should believe women. But then they turned around and I don't think that they even charged him. It was just to kick him out. Ridiculous. Let me get to Jeremiah in Louisiana. How you doing, Jeremiah?
This is a day, another day the Lord has made.
I thought you'd fallen asleep on me.
We shall rejoice and be glad in it.
Nice.
I kind of was. I know I ain't got much time, but it's Confederate Day, right?
Yeah, Confederate Heroes Day.
That's crazy that be right after MLK Day. I ain't never heard of Confederate Day.
It predates MLK Day. Did you know that?
Nah, I didn't. I ain't never heard of it.
Wow. But, you need to get educated.
Yeah, I had a scripture for that. Psalms 83, verse 3. Shout out to my brother, Rich from Victorville. I know you my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you my brother. Spirit. You know what I'm saying? Spirit.
He's creepy, evil spirit. That's for sure. Yep.
That's according to you, man. You know, you got the same doctrine as the Nicolaitans. You apologetic?
Go ahead with your verse.
All right. It says, they have taken crafty counsel against my people.
Airplane in the background.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my bad.
It's not
They
your
have
fault.
taken crafty counsel against our people and consulted against our hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. That's your confederacy right there.
Cute.
They consult against
Confederates in the Bible. It's a fact.
You know what the hidden ones are? The peculiar people. Why are we such a peculiar people? Why do you always talk about like Hispanics and Native Americans?
I don't talk about Hispanics and American Indians.
Yeah, you do.
Not much.
You just don't talk about them as much as you don't talk about
blacks
them
are more entertaining. Blacks are more entertaining, and you guys got more problems. And you're in the news a lot more.
Hey, we're peculiar people. We're peculiar. All what you just said is a peculiar people.
You commit more crimes than anybody per capita.
I wouldn't say that.
I would.
I wouldn't say that, but
it's a fact.
Yeah, we are. We definitely are peculiar people.
Hey, why when evil people read the Bible, it just sounds like blah, 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 blah? Fair question.
Well, I mean, if you can't see that right there, plain as day, I don't know what to tell you. Y'all named
Ooh, it said the word Confederate in it.
y'all named yourself
must be talking about the Confederacy. Well, thank you, man. Very enlightening.
Yeah.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Happy Confederate Heroes Day.
Enjoy your kingdom, man.
All right. You as well. All right. Commander Kim with a super chat. Oh, the Great White Hope is coming back. Just hold on, I'm coming. That's what Commander Kim says. I don't know if it's true or not. Asmodor states Atlantis was an island in the Pacific Ocean, thus the name Atlantis. Atlantic Ocean? Atlantis. But yes, it is mythical. Indeed. Very mythical. Lastly, let me see if I can plow through this quick story in the last minute here. The Chinese government wants grandchildren. Why don't the American government want American children? Oh, they hate whites. Morning Brew reports China revealed that its birth rate dropped for a fifth straight year in 2021. Population growth fell to a 61-year low, even worse than some demographers' lowest estimates, with the share of working-age people 16 to 59 falling from 70% a decade ago to 62.5% last year. The government is getting worried about its aging population could hinder economic growth. The working people have to work to subsidize the old, right? They lifted the disastrous one-child rule in 2016. They could only have one kid. And then if it was a daughter, they would drown the baby. That literally happened, I think. And then they have two children per family in 2016. And then now, last year, they upped it to 3 children per family. And then they limited and even banned for-profit tutoring in order to reduce the cost of child rearing. Because people are like, oh, it's too expensive to have children. So they banned you from getting tutoring because tutoring is maybe a little extra expense. You know how the Asians are all into getting their education. So they want to reduce the cost of child rearing. Some experts think the Chinese population may have hit a peak. The year 2021 will go down in Chinese history as the year China last saw population growth in its long history, said Wang Feng, professor of sociology at the University of California, Irvine, UCI. He told the Failing New York Slimes that. What a mess, huh? Ridiculous. Well, thank you, guys. This has been the Hake Report. I shall see you in the chat, hopefully, on the Bond Archive Sunday service premiere later today, 4 p.m. Women's Forum tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be back tomorrow with the Hake Report in the morning. And tomorrow night, I'm going to be on The Crucible versus Tomfoolery, who was in the chat, I think, about the imaginary existence of systemic racism. It's a nice debate that I'll be having tomorrow night. But if you're a woman, you got to go to the Women's Forum. Thanks, guys. Take care.